Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Mandy Van Havermont, and I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! From Great Eagle, Minnesota. Thank you so very much for joining me today. Today, I have a couple of alternatives to the April 2023 All the Little Things Paper Pumpkin Kit to share with you. Of course, you are absolutely welcome to make the cards exactly how they are shown on the paper pumpkin insert. That's always something fun to do. But I have a couple of alternatives. Before I get into that, I want to share with you, this kit also comes with this organizer. And I'm not sure if you are aware, but inside there's a second little flyer that if you scan this QR code, or you go to Paper Pumpkin, I believe if you go to paperpumpkin.com, there's a YouTube video that'll explain some of the different configurations. These will fit actually inside of a Paper Pumpkin box so that you can use your Paper Pumpkin box as an organizer. Also on the back side, it shows you about next month's Paper Pumpkin. Super excited about that. I love wild, scenic scenes, I guess you would say. I'm so excited for this Paper Pumpkin kit. Cannot wait until the May Paper Pumpkin kit comes. All right, let's get into our alternatives. My first alternative, I'm using the green card base here. I'm going to change it up just a little bit. I'm actually going to turn it this way. So we're going to fold and burnish that. Just get a nice good fold on there. And then what I'm going to do, I think this reminds me of a cherry blossom. I'm not sure if that's what it's supposed to be. I don't think that's what it's supposed to be, but in my head, that's what it looks like. And I think it's just gorgeous like this. I'm not going to really doctor it up a whole lot. So I'm just going to take a little bit of Tombow glue and put that right down on my card. For real, how basic can you get? Sometimes I think we try to reinvent the wheel a little more than we need to. And there's so much beauty in just that. I think that's so pretty. And so I'm going to let that sit for just a second. I'm going to come behind here and snip off my little end, just like that. So it looks like it's hanging in there like that. And so it opens up that way. And now I have the stamp that says, "With Deepest Sympathy." It's classic, beautiful stamp, beautiful sentiment, beautiful font. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a beautiful font. It's perfect. Because a sympathy card, in my opinion, and this does not mean that it's correct, but in my opinion, a sympathy card should be fairly simple. So I am going to put that on just like that. And I'm going to actually use some dimensionals to bump that up because I do think it needs a couple dimensionals. You would not have to use the dimensionals though. The best part about card making is that these are our own creations. There is no right way. There is no wrong way. That is my very favorite part about our hobby that we share. Is that you will never ever hear me tell you that you've made the card wrong. It just doesn't happen because it cannot be done. All right, I'm going to pull in my little jewels. These are really, if they're not identical to, they are really close to the iridescent jewels that will be carrying over into our next catalog, to the new annual catalog. Some of my favorite jewels, embellishments that we've ever had. I think they're so pretty. So there's card number one. I mean, really and truly, can you get any simpler than that? I think it's gorgeous. All right, let's move on to card number two. Card number two, I have got this piece right here that's in the kit. And then I've got the blue, let's see, balmy blue panel that came with it. And I'm going to use one of the little petal pink circles. And then I have a piece of petal pink. This is 8.5 by 5.5, scored down the middle at 4 1/4. And then I've got a piece of Calypso Coral, and this is 3.75, so 3 3/4 by 5. Okay, so what I am going to do is I'm actually going to put this directly onto the edge of my card. And I'm going to kind of try to get it as much of the flower on there as possible, like so. All right, actually, let's flip this over. I like it this way better. I like it that way better. I like that blue on the bottom. There again, if you want the white on the bottom, you do you. There is no right or wrong. Here again, I'm taking my Tombow glue, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the back. I'm not going to put it on that edge. I'm actually going to cut that off. So just like so. I kind of like it to be, there we go, like that. All right, so now I'm going to, I've got a little smudge on the back, a little extra glue that came out. I'm going to take some scissors and I'm just going to cut around even with my rectangle panel. So it's going to be flowers coming out from the edge. If you want to save these pieces and use them for something else, you could totally maybe tuck that in there, tuck it behind. You could do that. I'm not going to with this card necessarily. So I'm going to mount that onto that panel, onto my Calypso Coral panel. And I think Calypso Coral and Petal Pink are some of those colors that just, they're made for each other. They're so pretty together. And then you add that shaded spruce in there. Beautiful. I just love it. So I'm going to fold my card base, and then I'm going to simply mount that. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love it. Mount that right on there. All right, so that is the start of our card. I'm going to use my little Petal Pink circle, and I've got some Calypso Coral ink, and I'm going to use the sentiment, enjoy your day. Stamp it right down in the middle of that. Isn't that pretty? I love this font. It's so cool. Now I'm going to take some of the Calypso Coral twine, or baker's twine, that's in there, and I'm going to double it. And this is, I'm going to tie a double. It's nothing fancy. I'm just tying like you would tie a shoe, only I'm tying it with 2 pieces. And you've got to watch it because my end is not my end is looped. So basically here, if you want to not confuse yourself, there, snip it and you're good. So that'll go on each side. That's long enough. Perfect. Pull that just a little farther. All right. Snip that. And this is just a really good way to get your loops even. It's kind of a cheater way, actually. I actually learned this out of a paper pumpkin kit back a long time ago. They gave some kind of string and they made a bow and put our sentiment in front of it. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. And that's what I love about paper pumpkin too, is that it stretches your creativity and it teaches you things that you maybe normally wouldn't do, right? So we've got our nice big bow there that looks kind of weird, but now I'm going to put my sentiment right over that. And it doesn't look like a bow anymore, but it does look perfect, right? So I am going to take 2 dimensionals, put one on top of my bow and one underneath my bow. And that should be sufficient to hold that sentiment just like that. Cute, cute, cute. And now you can make your little tails even. Let's snip that off. Perfect. Can you tell I got new snips? Those babies are sharp. All right, and then I think just for fun, let's put a couple of I am a fan of threes. 3 gems, almost always. I put 3 gems on. There's card number 2. Oh, that's so pretty. I love those colors together. I love them. Okay, card number 3. Card number 3, I'm actually going to do one of my famous cut the envelopes, because this to me is just a big old piece of designer series paper. So let's go through cutting our envelope here. What I'm going to do is basically I use this side here. So I line it up on this side, and I'm going to cut off an 1/8 inch off the one side. This is garbage. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to cut an 1/8 inch off of this side as well. Okay. And I choose an 1/8 inch because it gives me a nice even cut. It didn't cut nice there, but it gives me a nice even cut. And it makes it so it doesn't like rip up your envelope at all. So now I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to position my seam, or my fold right there, my score mark, that's what I should say. I'm going to use this piece for another card in just a couple minutes. So I've got that cut off, and now I'm going to position that just on this side of the score line as well. So now I've got this really nice piece of blue, like watercolor paper. I'll use this for something different later on. This is the piece I'm going to use right now. So I'm going to bring in this piece here, which is, let's measure it here. I do believe it is, yep, it sure is 4 by just a little under 5 1/4. So I'm going to cut this just a little bit under 4. So like 3 and 1. Let's see here. Brain, think with me. Those are in 16ths. So we are 15/16. Is that what it is? Oh, that's too much thinking. We're going one little line under the 4. How's that? Here we're going to go one little line under 4 1/4. Let's not do math today. My brain is not there. All right, so I have gone through, and when you get your paper pumpkin kit, your card, this piece is going to look like this. I've already gone ahead and punched out all those little white pieces. And so this is what I'm left with. And I thought that looked so, so pretty on that blue. I just thought that was really cool. So I'm going to pull out my Tombow again, and just be cautious. Don't go crazy with your Tombow glue. I put just a little bit on each big piece, and then I'll go back and I'll get like my corners, but very lightly in the corners, because you don't want it to ooze out. All right, so there we go. Pick that up. Actually, I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to set this, because I can see a little bit better this way. All right. So there we go. And if it is just a little bit too big, go ahead and trim it off. But there we go. Isn't that pretty? So now I've got a piece of shaded spruce, 8.5 by 5.5, scored down the middle, right at 4 1/4. So just a basic card base. I think this is just so pretty. And I honestly wasn't sure about the foiling in there at first, but when I paired it with this background, with the green, the garden green, or so I'm sorry, garden green, shaded spruce, I thought, oh my word, that just totally changed it all. And I fell in love with it. I really, really like this card, or this base. So I'm just going to glue that right down onto my card base. Is that not, seriously, is that not stunning? So stinking pretty. Okay, now I am going to grab, my misplaced my pieces. They're here somewhere. I know they are. Here they are, I think. Well, I can tell you what my card looked like, and I'm going to tell you how I'm going to fix it. This is what I used, is this die cut right here, which I'm sure that as soon as I turn off the camera, is going to show up. I don't know where it's at right now, so I'm going to trim this up. And I've got a piece of scrap white here, and that's what we're going to use. So that was roughly 3/4 of an inch. So I've got, that was not 3/4 of an inch, that's an inch. Let's try again. I've got some scraps, don't worry. We're gonna go 2 inches by 1 inch. I'm telling you, there's no wrong way to make a card. We're gonna make this work. So what I'm going to do is this right here. I'm going to trim this and make this piece. So let's stamp it. I'm going to bring out my shaded spruce, and I'm going to use that with Deepest Sympathy stamp again, because I think that that's a perfect sympathy card. There again, it's kind of muted, but it's beautiful. Not too over the top. I'm going to trim that off. I don't think 2 inches was right. I'm going to go trim off maybe 1/4 inch. So it's going to be roughly at 1 3/4 inch. Take some of the black baker's twine that came inside of the kit. I'm going to wrap it around a couple times and just tie a simple knot. This is not a bow. If you wanted a bow, you totally could make one. But, and I always tie off the end of my spool. I almost always do this where I leave it connected, because then people ask, well, how long of a string do you need? I don't really know, because I usually tie it off of the spool. That way I'm not wasting thread. I'm literally, what I will waste is only what I don't want that is extended off of here. So maybe just, there's my waist, not very big, right? And I tend to do that almost exclusively. So, and now you can see that my string is a little loose. I'm going to show you a way to fix that as well, because nobody ever looks at the back side of your pieces. So I'm going to take a piece of either double-sided tape, or even if you use Scotch tape, whatever, just tighten that up. And so nobody will see this part of your card, but they're going to think, oh, look at how perfect she tied that string. It's just the perfect tightness. It's all, she's just, yeah. You don't have to show your imperfections. I'm telling you. Okay, so I am going to put that right down there. Grab a couple of dimensionals again, right here. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to put this right down. Pull that apart a little bit. There we go. I'm going to put that right down there. And there we go. That is card number 3. And I love it. I think that is such a beautiful background, and I think it really goes nicely with that blue piece from the card, the envelope. So, all right, now I told you I was going to use this piece from the envelope. And here we go. All right, I've got a few more pieces to come with this. I've got a pretty decent sized scrap of Night of Navy. I've got a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of basic white. I've got a 1 1/4 inch by 4 inch piece of basic white. And then I've got, from the kit, I've got this die cut here, and I have got this die cut here, and then a piece of petal pink, and that is 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, scored down the middle right at 4 1/4. So let's fold and burnish that and set that aside. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I am going to, first I've got this fold here. Do I like that fold? That fold doesn't bother me. there's a little bit, you can see it. It's that score mark from the envelope. You can leave that on there. No big deal right there. So I'm going to look like that is how I'm going to adhere that. I would like a tape runner. Here we go. I prefer to use a tape runner. If you've watched me ever, almost exclusively do I use a tape runner. Today I just so happen to be using glue more. So I'm going to put that right up on the edge, kind of centering it. So I've got a little bit of overhang here, a little bit of overhang here, and the point goes out into the middle. So when I flip it over, it's flush here, and I'm just going to trim these two pieces off. Doop. And doop. All right. Okay. So I think that that looks really neat. I'm going to take a piece of Night of Navy, and I'm going to line it, butt it right up against there and right off the page this way. And here we go. Yes, that's what I want to do. So I'm doing it on the top. So I'm going to put my adhesive right on this white piece. I don't need to necessarily put it on here because I can put it on my white piece. Okay, so now that's on there. We're going to trim this off. And so, like I said, I would not have needed this big of a piece of Night of Navy, and I maybe could have figured out my angles and so on. Math is not my thing today, so I'm just going to trim. All right, there we go. I'm going to trim closer because it did not get very close to my white because the piece of Night of Navy was so big. Okay, there we go. So now that's my piece. So what I'm going to do is stamp on my piece of basic white. I've got my Calypso Coral, and I've got the big sentiment that says, I'm grateful for all the little things you do. And I am going to stamp that towards the very right edge of my piece of basic white. So let's build our card. I'm going to put this little guy right underneath like that. So I'm going to bring in my piece of, or my Tombow glue here, put just a little bit. Sound effects are included. Just like that. And so now this can go right on like that. Isn't that pretty? That's so, oh, I love it. I just love it. So much fun when you make a card that you're like, oh, that's so fun. And I really like the looks of this. I think it's just phenomenal. All right, so now I'm going to take my flower stamp, or my flower cutout, and I'm going to put that on there. I'm going to bump it up with some dimensionals. And I just chuck them babies to the side. I have confetti all over my office when I'm done. I literally, every time I make cards. It's fun. All right, and if you wanted to, you could totally bring in some of these little little flowers that you have left over and put some of those in the background if you'd like. One maybe there, and maybe one there. Let's do that. And I feel with the foil paper, you really don't need a lot of embellishments on these cards because it gets to be almost too much with the foil paper and the extra embellishments. So we'll put those down there. I think that's cute. Should I put the other one up here? Why not? I am going to hide that foil though. Tuck that down. Just so it's not quite so out there. Oh, that's cute. Okay, so now let's mount that onto my piece of petal pink. And let's see, does that go over? It does go over just a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to move it so it doesn't go over, so it lines up to the edge of the card. That's okay. If you wanted to trim those off, you very much could, or just make sure that you position them so they stay up on your card. In my case, I'm okay being a little off center. I'm perfectly all right with that. So there is card number 3. Isn't it beautiful? I love it. So I'm going to bring in all my cards here. Got some snippies on there. I love this kit. And if you love this kit too, please give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, I will talk to you soon. Again, my name is Mandy Van Havermet, and I am from Grey Eagle, Minnesota. Thanks. Bye-bye.